Hello, pooling arounders, and welcome to part 2 of our insight into Cumberland and Westmorland wrestling. As I promised you in the very recent episode, I have a treat for you as we introduce a little bit of international flavour once again to our little podcast. This is through a chat with wrestlers from both Iceland and Brittany in France, who make a positive beeline for England each year so they can take part in Cumberland and Westmorland wrestling competitions. Whilst they make the very most of their time in the UK, entering many different events, Grasmere Lakeland Sports and Show is the one for them, and something that offers them an experience that they don't get in their own countries. So why is that? Let's listen to what they have to say. I'm really excited to be joined by some wrestlers now who are actually living in Iceland and France. So can I ask you to introduce yourselves, please? First of all, I think we've got Gummi there, haven't we?
My name is Guðmundur Stefán Gunnarsson. Yeah.
And where do you live?
I live in Reykjanesbær. It's a town really close to the airport, national airport.
In Reykjavik?
20 minutes from Reykjavik.
Okay. And we also have Jana in Iceland, haven't we, Jana?
Yes. Hi. I am Jana Ellertsdóttir, and I also live in Iceland. I live in South Iceland.
Okay. And Léa, we've got you too. Where do you live, please?
I'm Léa. I'm living in France, in Brittany.
Okay. And you're one of the Breton wrestlers that comes to Grasmere Sports every year, aren't you?
Yes, I came twice already, and it will be my third time this year.
Okay. Yeah, that's fantastic. So first of all, I'm going to ask you all how you got involved with wrestling and how you started in wrestling. So, Jana, do you want to tell me how you got involved first?
Yes, I started doing Glima, the Icelandic wrestling style, when I was young. And Ólafur Oddur, the former president of Fylk, he got also involved in other wrestling styles. Mm-hmm. And he organized a trip to Scotland and England, and then later on France and other countries. So we tried different kinds of wrestlings.
I see. And Gummi, I think you in Iceland have been wrestling for about 10 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been doing backhold wrestling and Cumberland and Westmorland wrestling for around 10 years. But I started in the Japanese wrestling, like judo, when I was 9. I got really involved in the backhold and Cumberland wrestling because of the atmosphere around the styles and the people around that.
And Léa, what about you? How long have you been doing this kind of wrestling?
I started Breton wrestling when I was young too, and during our child competition we had some backhold, so I started this wrestling in that time, and I really get involved when I started to do the international championship in France each year, and mostly when I first came in England when I was 16, so yeah, and for European Championship also.
Well, it sounds like a brilliant thing to do, but what is the difference between the style of wrestling that you would do in your own country and the Cumberland and Westmorland wrestling style? Is there a difference? Gummi, can you say if there's a difference at all?
Yeah, it's the difference is the grips and how you start the bout. In Iceland, we have a certain kind of belts that you have to take a hold of, and you can't let the grips loose. And in backhold and Westmorland wrestling, that's like similar to us. Like then you have like you're holding your both hands together, and if you lose the grip, you lose, and if you fall, you lose. And the Gouren is like then you grab the clothes to fight, and that's a difference. But they are so alike too.
And Léa, did you find it very different when you came from France?
Yep. I think the rules are very different between backhold and Breton style, the Gouren. in Gouren we have kind of shirt with a belt, and we can grip on that shirt only. And the purpose of the wrestling is to put your adversary on the two shoulders in the same time. And in backhold, your adversary just have to fall before you.
Onto the floor. Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there is no, you can grip anywhere you want it in the shirt in Gouren. Instead of backhold, you just have to grip your hands and not let them loose.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah. And did you find it very different, Jana, when you started this kind of wrestling?
Gummi is also my coach, so he got me into judo as well. So then I had two kind of sports to build on, so it was not that different, but it's definitely not the same.
Mm.
But you can use some techniques
Yes.
in both sports.
Okay.
Can I add one thing? Like Léa, she had really good points. Like in Gouren and Icelandic style, there's a really we focus a lot on a good technique. So in the Gouren, you have to use a really good technique to put people on the shoulder blades. That's the goal. And in Glima, the same thing. Like the technique is really
You have to control the fall.
you control the fall and keep balance.
Hmm.
So, and in backhold in Cumberland and Westmorland wrestling, it's really it seems like it's simple, but it's really complicated. But it's not the same pressure on a really beautiful technique.
Yes. Yeah. So there are certain sort of moves, aren't there, with Cumberland and
Yeah.
Westmorland wrestling that perhaps you don't have necessarily in your version of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's fantastic that you all come together, even though you've got these differences in the sport, that you all manage to come together and compete together as kind of one community across different countries. I mean, that's quite remarkable, I think, in many ways, isn't it? But I think that you've mentioned this to me, Gummi, in emails, that you feel this very strong connection with Celtic sort of heritage when you're doing this. Is that something that you all feel, do you think?
Jana, she maybe has to answer for herself, but I feel a really, really strong connection when I travel around and meet the people in different countries with the same heritage as us.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree.
And Léa, do you feel that as well?
Yep, I agree too.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic that the Celtic community is spread across all these nations, but this sport is bringing them together in a way that in many other ways in life, there just isn't that connection to the Celtic tradition anymore, is there? So I think this sport is really serving a great purpose in many ways of bringing you all together in this way. And, talking to the women now, sorry to sort of concentrate on them, but do you find that this is something that in your countries other women don't understand, or is it something that's always sort of been treated as absolutely normal for you to do this?
To do wrestling,
Yes.
Yep. No, I don't feel that way. I think wrestling it's seen, in France or Brittany. But for backholds or even Gouren in Brittany, it's not very well known because it's kind of traditional wrestling. So when I tell people that I'm doing Breton wrestling, they mostly don't understand very well because it's kind of precise instead of judo, which is very well known everywhere.
And Jana, what about in Iceland? Is it a normal thing for women to do in Iceland, or have you sort of set the bar of where women need to be?
I think as well it's quite common in Iceland. We are, I think it's close to 50-50 in both categories, for male and female.
That's good, because I'm not sure it's the same in England,
No, not really.
No. I think, I've been speaking actually earlier on, I spoke to a young girl in England who started wrestling a few years ago. So she's aged 11 now. But she has encouraged a lot of her friends to get involved with this. And she does wrestling part of the time and she does dancing another part of the time. And she doesn't see any difference in that, which is fantastic, that these two completely different things in many people's minds she just sees as absolutely normal combining in her life. But what she said, and her brother too, who's involved in wrestling, is that they've noticed that a lot of their friends are now getting involved with this, that they've seen how they are doing it and they want to get involved. And this, Gummy, was something you told me, that in Iceland there's been this big sort of rise in people who are actually starting the sport now. So why do you think that is?
I think I'm just talking from my behalf. It's not only sport; it's more like a big community, and the close, like being so close and being so vulnerable, brings us much tighter together. So that's my opinion of like this sport.
Hmm. And would you say that's the same in France, in Brittany? Well, and let's talk about the whole of France because it is really Brittany, isn't it? Is that the same for you, Léa?
I think so. We are a very special spirit in Breton wrestling, and I think people are attracted by it too.
Yeah, because they were talking, these kids I was talking to were talking about the friendship circles that they have, that it really binds people together, that they text. Well, I think social media's got a lot to do with this. They text each other and they sort of message each other about how they're getting on in competitions and how they're going to get to the next competition. And I'm sure that social media has perhaps helped with some of this, and it has brought people closer together in this sport. Now, you've mentioned to me, some of you, European Championships. What are they and where do they take place?
So the European Championship it takes place, it was supposed to be every other year, and then the opposite years they have competition in teenagers classes.
Mhm.
And the countries that have interest in holding them can, but next year, 2025, it will be in Brittany.
Okay, so are you excited about that then, Léa? That sounds like that should be something really good for you.
Yes, of course. It's very motivating to do again some European Championship because it stops because of the COVID period, and it's very motivating, and we are going to train a lot and to bring some young people. I mean, young they are young adults to be part of the Brittany team, and it gave some new purpose for us too.
Yeah, because again, George, who I was speaking to earlier, he went to Brittany, I think in February this year. And I just thought, what a fantastic opportunity for somebody. I think he's 15, but what a great opportunity to kind of go to another country and experience its culture and do a sport that you love as well. I mean, it just sounds like a wonderful thing for young people to do. So, it's fantastic, I think, that you have these championships. So, what have you achieved in your careers that you're most proud of?
I'm most proud of my champions. I was a champion 2019 in England. I think we call it the World Champion, World Championships. It was like a lot of competitors and really strong competitors. Being the second foreign person to win the championship is probably my proudest. The same year I was Nordic champion in judo, but I think the championship in England was my biggest and proudest moment.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And Jana?
I think I would say my European champion, how do you say it?
Championship title or?
Yeah. Yes, my European champion title in Wranglen. It was held in Austria, 2017 probably.
Okay.
Then I was trying a different wrestling style for the first time. But then it came all together that doing many different wrestling styles can help you in wrestling style that you haven't tried before.
Yeah. And Léa, what about you? What's been your biggest achievement so far?
I would say my European Championship titles too, that I won in Iceland in 2019. I was with the senior, but I didn't have 21 years old. I was younger, so
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, it sounds like you've all achieved great things then.
And that was a great achievement. That
So you saw that, did you?
Yeah, I saw that. That was
Ah.
great.
That's great. So, yeah, how hard is it to get younger people involved, do you think? Because there's a lot of different distractions, aren't there? Different sports to be involved with. How do you go about attracting more people into the sport?
I think we are trying to cooperate with the other combat sports to introduce our style in their clubs, and they send competitors and people to our events to participate in training camps and just having fun with us. Yeah, and before we did that, we started this year, and it is working really well. But before that, it was just normally going to schools and introducing, like traveling around and yeah, so just normal.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening in England. They're trying to go into schools and yeah. In Brittany, what's the situation there, Léa? How do you get more people involved?
we are doing some initiation and demonstration during some events, and some people also doing Breton styles in schools for like few months in the a year. So the child are going to in our club next to keep going.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's all been quite successful in growing this interest in the sport. But now I'm going to ask you all, because what struck me is that I think in your countries you do all this wrestling indoors, don't you? And I believe it was a bit of a shock, Gummy, when you arrived in Grasmere or in England and you found that it was all wrestling on grass and outdoors. How different is that to actually do that outdoors and on that surface?
Outdoors is great. It's like all the mud, and if it's raining, and like my favorite is when it's raining and the weather is bad, according to people from England and Britannia. And
Yes.
it's just like the summertime in Iceland. So so it's really nice to being out on the grass, and it's yeah, normally we are wrestling inside almost all year long in Iceland.
Yeah. And did you find it different, Jana?
No, it was not different, but it's really nice to travel and be out so much because and it also gathers people around, because in Iceland it's really hard to get people to go inside a sport hall or something to watch. But then, yeah, I like the idea to have it on a field and have something around, so it attracts people, and then they are forced to watch.
Yeah. And Léa, it's the same in Brittany, isn't it? That you mainly sort of wrestle inside?
We mainly wrestling inside, yes. And I agree with Jana. I like doing backholds outside, and we have to adapt, but it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes when it's nice in England and the sun actually shines, it's okay. It's not often, but it can be quite nice. But, everybody tells me, I don't know whether this is just an English thing, but people say to me that Grasmere is very, very special as a wrestling event. Would you agree with that? And what is it that makes it special if that's the case?
If I can start, there are lots of shows around England, and we have been to Scotland. That's really great. But when you go there in the water district, like the nature, and you can feel you can see the signs of the places, and they're all like Celtic heritage. Then you feel a little at home. Like the weather is nice and everything's so alive there. So that's a really nice place to be.
Because, it's been going on there for since the middle of the 19th century, sorry. So, it's a very, very long heritage. I think even in Wordsworth's day, people were writing about people wrestling in Grasmere. So it goes back, well over a century, which I think, is something quite amazing, really, that this sport has survived. What do you like about Grasmere, Jana?
I like how big it is. It's really fun to be there and compete and also watch other wrestlers and see how many people gathers around the sport. Yeah, I think so. And you're close to nature and in the nature. That I agree with Gummi. It feels like home.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great that, there are probably 4 set rows of seating at least, which are always full for the wrestling. But then there are about 3 or 4 rows of people behind that trying to get a seat.
Yeah.
Because once the wrestling starts, all eyes are on it, aren't they? And people who know nothing about it become absorbed by it, I think. That, they sort of, often they don't know the people, I think, but they kind of like find a favourite, or they want to support somebody, or they think that something's done really well. And I think it's wonderful how people get attached to it, even if they have no real experience of that sport. So, Léa, do you enjoy wrestling in Grasmere?
Yes, I really do. It's one of the most important tournaments we do during our UK tour. So it's like a challenge to wrestling there. And also the mountains are very magnificent and it's very pleasant to wrestle in this environment.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, isn't it? It's like a natural arena, isn't it, with the mountains around it? And
Yes.
yeah, and as long as the weather's okay, it's good. So I just want to ask you, you talk about coming on tour, which when people hear you talk about going on tour, it's usually football clubs, and it's usually like a lot of drinking and a lot of fun. But I mean, I think when you go on tour, you do like 11 championships in something like 12 days, aren't you? It must be quite intense, I would have thought.
Yes, it's very intense, but it's also we made good memories with the small groups of wrestlers, so I like it a lot.
And is that the same for you too from Iceland? Do you find that? It must be hard work, but is it worth it?
Totally worth it. That's it's like a lot of competitions in a short time, but we still have time to communicate with others and also just getting the group tighter, like the Icelandic group, and it helps us to also to prepare for the European Championships. That is the biggest event of the Celtic wrestling culture. Yeah, so it's a tour, and it's really serious for us. We train a lot, and we compete. We want to have as many competitions as possible when we move to England.
Yeah. And do you get any time to relax when you're on this tour, Jana? And what do you do when you're not wrestling? What sort of things do you get to do?
Then we fuel our bodies. We go on grocery trips, mostly, and then just relax.
And you get time to see anywhere, go sightseeing? Or?
Maybe not on the days that we rest. Then we are just resting in our apartment or something. But when we are traveling, we try to maybe go on the way back to our apartment to see something if we saw something on the way there or something that we want to see.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we've seen a few things. We went last time I went. I saw the Castle Greystoke or something.
Oh, yeah, Greystoke Castle.
Yeah. Drove up there and saw it.
Oh, right.
Carson.
Yes, I used to have a client who ran a tea room close to that castle, so literally just up the lane a little bit from that castle. But,
okay.
I also, there's a racing stables in Greystoke, so I did a story there once, which was really great, but the horse tried to bite me, so...
It's a great place.
Yeah.
Beautiful place.
Yeah, it's really nice. So, it sounds like you have, a great time and it's really useful for you to come. So how difficult was it in the COVID years when all this was stopped for you? Jana, so maybe tell me about that. Was that like a real wrench for you to not be able to do this? Or?
Yes, it was sad. Not to be able to come and compete, and also just to meet everyone, because it's a great community that we have built through these years to visit Brittany and England and Scotland and other countries. So it was a good reminder that it's a really nice thing to do through the year, to come and visit and compete and meet other wrestlers.
Yeah. And Gumi, same for you?
Yeah, the same. We didn't do much when in the COVID times. We just trained, and we realized how important it was to our friendship with the English and the Breton people and the Scottish, and Lyon and Austria and all this kinds of Celtic association.
Léa, how did you find it in those years?
Very complicated because we didn't have the right to train, so we can't compete too. And I missed wrestling, and I was very happy to be back, start again the training and go to tournaments. And I really miss to come back in England for the tour we are going to do this year. So I'm kind of excited to be back this year.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that you're all going to be in Grasmere this year. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, I shall hopefully see you there.
Yeah.
But come on now, give me your chances now. Which team is going to do the best this year, do you think?
The Icelandic team.
The Icelandic team?
Yeah.
For sure.
We have a really young team and really promising team. In the future, they are going to be the best. And this is the
We'll
first.
see that.
Yeah.
Léa, do you agree with this? I'm sure there's some really promising people in Brittany as well, aren't there?
Yes, yes.
There are a few.
And then, of course, there are the English and the Scots. We mustn't forget them because they also come down from Scotland. So, yeah. And, I think the good thing is that anybody on the day can enter, can't they? So you could find somebody that nobody else knows who just walks in and has some experience that you don't know about and there they are. But yes, we're quite excited this year because we've got a new trophy for the younger wrestlers. So Roger Robson, who did a lot for wrestling in Cumberland, there's a new memorial trophy for him. So that's to encourage the younger wrestlers to actually get involved. And I believe that a lot of those youngsters want to win that trophy because he was so influential and everybody respected him so much. So, we were I was very excited when you came last year because I was appointed in 2020, February 2020 to do the PR. And of course, March 2020, we got COVID. So for 2 years, I didn't do any PR except saying, oh, we can't run the event. So, last year was 2 years ago was my first real sort of bash at doing anything. And, gradually, I think you came back last year, didn't you, from the other countries? I think the year before when we did something, I don't think you were there. But last year when I saw you all coming internationally, it was fantastic, because I think it adds so much colour when we've got people from different nationalities coming together. This adds a new dimension, and I think people are really interested because you have got different techniques and different ways of approaching things. So I can't wait for you to be back. And I do hope that I will see you all there and say hello to you if you've got time between your different fights. So do come and say hello to me if you see me. I'll be running around with my camera and my pad writing notes, no doubt. Usually found in the pavilion. But I'd love to say hello to you. And I thank you so much for your time in doing this because it's been lovely to talk to you. And I do hope that you have lots of success this year.
Thank you for helping the sport.
Well, yes, hopefully people will listen to this and,
of course,
it's something that I think people should give it a go, if they can, because why not? It's something different and there's something interesting. And like you say, it's got such a massive community around it that that's the important thing, isn't it? It's not necessarily just the sport, is it? It's what's built around it and what you do in your social life.
Like they were saying, like all the stories we can tell when we get older about everybody that we meet and what we do.
Yeah. And do you keep diaries when you're on tour about what you've seen and what you've done?
I'm not me. I don't do diaries.
Maybe you should. Maybe you should write a book about it one day.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Start making notes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you.
I shall
Thank
see
you.
you. Thank you. Bye.
See you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.
I'll see you. Bye.
Yes, thank you. Bye. What a brilliant insight into why traditional wrestling is so much loved across Europe. Surely by now you want to watch a few bouts yourself and head to Grasmere Lakeland Sports and Show to see Gummi, Jana and Léa in action. I'll certainly be poodling around the show field at Grasmere on Sunday, watching a fair few bouts, whilst also having a keen eye on the fell races and the hound trailing events. I might even get time to see some circus performance, if I juggle things well. Time, that is, not balls. Anyone can enter any bout or race on the day, but there's so much enjoyment of a truly uplifting nature to be had from seeing others competing for medals. It's also the kind of day that time forgot here in England, a step back into the past in a way, full of traditional enjoyment and values, and all played out in the fresh Cumbrian air and in a stunning natural arena. Even if there are a few raindrops, there's still fun to be had, so just do that very British thing of packing a waterproof and an umbrella. Don't forget the sun cream either, as you might experience several seasons in the course of one day. Oh, the joys of living in Britain, hey? So, until the next time, take really good care of yourself, whether you are carousing around California or careering around Carlisle. And remember, as I always say, life's much more fun when you are poodling around, even if it's in a pack-a-mac.